Happy to have with us the Dean of TV Sportscasters in the state of Arkansas, Mike Irwin, Pig Trail Nation, joining us here on the Williams Tractor Hotline. Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Good. Appreciate the time today. So, what do you make of where we are right now with the SEC and with the Big Ten's decision last week? Just kind of what do you make of all this?
Well, I've been waiting around trying to hear what will come out of that SEC meeting with the ADs. That'll be interesting. I admit I've got a little bit of an agenda here. I've taken a position on this. I think they should play. And you get shamed by people when you say that there are people that haven't read nearly as much about this as, for instance, I have, because I go on websites every day, and I'm not talking about Twitter. I'm talking about the Mayo Clinic, the Center for Disease Control. Anytime I see any kind of information article written on COVID-19, I read about it. I've been doing that for 4 months. And I know, for instance, that if you are a healthy 25 and under individual with no pre-existing conditions, your chances of getting sick from COVID are virtually zero. Yes, you can catch it, and we've seen that with these athletes. As the teams came together and started their strength and conditioning workouts, we saw some of these schools have an uptick in these guys testing positive, but I'm not aware of anybody that went to the hospital. Sam Pittman said about a week ago that what's basically been happening at Arkansas is the few that have tested have been quarantined for 10 days and then they're back. So I do think there's a way for these athletes to compete against each other and not get sick. So then you move on to the coaches. That is a totally separate issue because they are in an at-risk category, and I think they would have to change their coaching style. You don't have to get in somebody's face to coach them. You could stand away 5 or 6 yards and learn to coach that way. And all of these workouts are outdoors anyway, most of them. And the chances that, again, from the CDC, most infections occur indoors. To be honest with you guys, the stuff I'm reading is most people that are getting this are going to bars and nightclubs because that's where you sit around and talk to somebody for 20 minutes in an indoor setting, and especially if you're not wearing a mask, and that's how you get it. Now, there are other ways to get it, but that's where a lot of this is happening. And that's where a lot of the young people are getting it. But I don't think they're as goofy as some people suggest. I think they've read this information too, and they know that just getting it doesn't mean anything into that age group. So we'll see what happens. I just had a conversation with Jason Carroll, my boss, and he went on Twitter today and made the point that who's asking the players? Now, maybe they are behind the scenes. I don't know. But I think their feelings ought to at least be a factor. Might not be a final decision, but I hope these ADs and college presidents and chancellors and everybody that's involved at least talk to the athletes and ask them what they think.
So, in your opinion, based on what you've read, what would lead to the reaction of the Big Ten and the Pac-12 to say we're only playing conference games? To my knowledge, a non-conference game requires as much travel for a team from Oregon going to Arizona State as it would from Oregon to whatever other games have. The travel's basically the same. Why would these teams suddenly pull back if the information that you're reading, and they have it, is out there?
The only answer I can give you is that people are reacting to the case load. In other words, when you see these headlines, and say, for instance, in Arkansas, highest number of positive tests in one day, 1,000, and 800, and it's 400, 500. In Florida, they reached, I think, 13,000 in one day. And when you see those sound really scary. But what does that mean? You have to separate that, which does affect the rest of us. I'm not saying that's not a factor for the average person out there. But for college-age athletes, it's a totally separate issue. They are, again, I believe absolutely they need to be given extensive physical examinations before they're ever allowed to play and rule out any pre-existing condition. But if they are healthy at that age group, the chances of even being hospitalized with this after you get it is virtually zero. So the fact of the matter is that when you get these players together, they're going to pass it around to each other. It's going to spread. But if they're not getting sick, What is the issue? And I guess I suspect that's what's happening is college presidents are getting involved, people on the academic side, and they just think this is too dangerous. Again, fans, totally separate issue. I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about just whether or not these players can go play each other and not cause issues for each other. And the information that's out there right now suggests that they can. And look, they're shutting down high schools everywhere. I'm down in Texas this week, and I just saw on the internet yesterday where the superintendent of the Dallas School Board has said it's unlikely that they're going to play high school football this year. I think he's going to get his mind changed about that down in this state. In New Mexico, they just said no fall sports. And I've got a nephew that's a high school coach in New Mexico, and he's pretty mad. And to me, it's too soon, and they haven't looked at the data that I'm looking at. That's the only thing I can figure out.
We're talking with Mike Irwin, Pig Trail Nation, here on Ruscin and Zach. Do you think this is all, and everything you said, of course, is spot on about the people under 25 not getting seriously ill or dying, but do you think it's all out of we don't want to be the school where the one player dies? Is that what this is all kind of based on?
Absolutely could be that, and I've heard that. And people have said all it's going to take is one person, and then this whole thing is shut down. But think about this. Does anybody think that a college football season is played without somebody dying? You die on the way to practice. They used to have 4 or 5 heat-related deaths every year. Now, they cut that down. But football itself is a risk. I would say if one person randomly died here or there, that's life. I'm not making light of that situation, but that's the way this country has always operated. We don't freak out over a few deaths because in whatever area you're talking about. Where we get concerned is if there's a series of these things. That's when it becomes a problem. That's when they started really dealing with heat-related problems. Probably about 30 years ago is when I saw it first start, because they were having an unusual number of people dying in these 2-a-day practices, and they did a lot of research and changed things around, and today we don't have 2-a-days. So I'm certainly not against being concerned when something happens, but if you say to yourself, wow, if one person died, it's all over, I'm thinking the data suggests that if you did have an athlete die, it's probably somebody that had a pre-existing condition that you didn't know about. And guys, there's new information every day. I just read an article today that was very well researched by some doctors, and they've done a study. And they said if you've had the flu or even a common cold recently, you have antibodies already in your system that help you fight off COVID-19. So they think this is why some people may be getting it and testing positive, but they're asymptomatic because they already have these antibodies present in their body, and it helps fight it off. I'm all for research. I'm a big research guy. Find out as much as you can about this stuff. And that is the one thing that keeps me from being depressed, is that 4 months after this, 5 months after this all starts, we're starting to learn a lot of things about this. And I would encourage everybody out there, don't just read Facebook and listen to people freaking out. Educate yourself. If you search the internet, you can find all kinds of information on the way they're treating this. Read again in the last 2 days, 2 different doctors. They do it a different way, but both of them are saying if you come in and immediately start treatment for this, don't wait around. If you have the symptoms, go get tested. As soon as you get tested, get on the regimen. One doctor uses the same stuff you're using for asthma, these inhalers, and he's had good luck with it. Another one's using hydroxychloroquine and zinc and some other stuff, and says, I've had 83 patients. They've all gotten okay within 3 or 4 days. So there's a lot of encouraging information out there, but boy, this thing is being politicized too. I mean, it's all you get shamed if you talk about this.
Right.
You don't care about it. And I had a grandmother that died, and if you were me, you wouldn't be saying that. Yes, I would still be saying that, even if somebody I knew died, because you have to look at the overall picture and ask yourself what's really going on out there. And I admit it's not clear. It's very murky when you try to wade through all this stuff.
Yeah. It's not clear, but like you said, this is new, and every day the experts are learning new things. So you hear this a lot about, well, such and such was wrong over and over again. Well, the information changes because they're doing more and more research every day.
Well, in the whole mask thing, look, don't wear a mask. Wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. I personally believe masks are effective. Mostly, if you're going to go to a bar tonight and sit in there and visit with somebody for 45 minutes or an hour, wear a mask. I'm not saying it will prevent you from getting it, but I think it can help. From what I've read, if you walk into Walmart and somebody sneezes and they have it and you walk by there, there's not enough of a viral, what they call a viral load, to really cause you problems. But if you have a mask on, it definitely reduces that. So I'm not one of these anti-mask people. I'm kind of feel weird about that. I don't know why people are so worried about that. It doesn't hurt to put it on. Maybe they feel stupid. I don't know, but I'm not anti-mask. I'm for anything that's out there that might help. But reading the data, it's really important. One of the key things is this doesn't happen in a chance encounter. You get infected by standing there talking to somebody. In one of the studies they did, it happened with people in a choir. Think about this. One guy's infected, you're singing, you're practicing. This one guy's spewing this stuff out as he sings, and it's going everywhere, and it lasts for an hour. And that's how you get it. So just learning this stuff kind of makes me feel a little better. I'm not going to go sing in a choir, that's for sure.
Yeah. Not indoors.
Mike, I want to ask you about go ahead.
I've avoided bars, too. I'm not going in one of those at my age, because I'm 72. If it gets me, I'm in trouble.
Mike, I want to ask you about our business, the business of sports in general, because when all of this started, I read an article which talked about habit breaking. It takes 3 weeks to break a habit, and I don't know how your sports viewing is, but there are sports still on TV. Should we, as a business, be concerned that when these sports come back, you're not going to have viewers returning to your TV sets and your streaming services like we once did?
Yeah, it's unknown, but it's certainly something to consider. I still feel, I try to use myself as an example, I'm going absolutely nuts. When they had that golf tournament, whatever that mini Pro Tour thing with Maria Fossey, and I jumped at a chance to go out and cover that because it was a real sporting event. I had a hell of a good time out there, just being back out there where something was live and real. So I definitely want to see live sports. I hope it doesn't change it a lot. Guys, I think what may change as a result of this year, you may see some real problems start to develop with live gate. We may never see, again, these 95 crowds of 105, 95,000. That may go down because as people get used to watching it on TV, if we have a season, they may say, well, this is not so bad. So that could be a big change, but I'm not sure. The only thing I'm hearing rumblings about, you don't know how, you see this stuff people say on the internet, and you don't know if it's accurate, but I read somewhere 60% of NFL fans are mad about all this name change and the Black National Anthem and kneeling and all that. I don't know if that has an effect, but things like that might work its way into whether you watch or not. But I don't think just COVID would cause you not to want to watch college sports. I think it might cause you to say, I don't need to go to the games in person.
You're aware of this as much as we are, but you've got the university may have to shift its model because there are folks that go tailgate that don't actually go to the games, and if that population starts to shrink and there aren't as many people going to the games and there aren't as many people tailgating, that means less money for the university. And it starts a snowball down a hill. Could you see in a couple of years, maybe 18 months from now, the university shifting its focus on how all of this works?
Well, what I could see is you take Arkansas. They're building that big new thing over at baseball and a similar one at track. That may be the last of that type of stuff that we see for a while. And, the arms race in the SEC got a little nutty, to be honest. But what it looks like you might see has already started at some places, and that is the elimination of some of these non-revenue sports. Now, you got Title IX involved, so I don't know how it would work with women's sports, but you've got two basic revenue producers at most schools, and that's football and basketball. At a few schools, baseball might hold its own and might turn a little bit of a profit. The rest of it, that's all a drain on the athletic department. And you might see the number of sports reduced. I can see that.
Mike, I mean, it's got to be the question you're asked all the time: is there going to be a season? Is there going to be football? Are they going to figure out a way to? To me, what we've talked about here a lot, Mike, is I'm with you on the outdoor stuff, but the logistics of running guys through the locker room. I mean, you can't have 80 guys in the locker room, getting ready at the same time. It's not going to work anymore with this. So how do they manage that?
Well, again, I think if you're looking at the data, I would say they're going to give, if somebody has it on the team, it'll spread, and so you've got an issue of quarantining. And at any given time, there might be 30 guys until it runs through the team. And then, to me, but by the time, if they keep these guys together from now all the way through the end of August, I think by then, whoever's going to get it's going to have it. And again, if they don't get sick, then you got no issue, in my opinion. It's just, but are they going to have it? That's why I'm sitting here waiting to see what comes out of this meeting between the ADs and the conference commissioner. I'm not sure where the SEC is headed. I think the SEC would be the last school to make major changes or to have no games at all. I just know how much they understand that football is a part of the South. It's the last place where politically correct chancellors could step in and say we're not going to play and have a riot on their hands. But this year, 2020, is so nutso that I'm not willing to make any predictions. I don't know what's going to happen.
Mike, we appreciate the time as well. As always, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, guys.
All right, Mike Irwin, Pig Trail Nation, on his vacation, appearing with us, no less, here on Ruscin Zach on the Williams Tractor Hotline.